15. Pragmatic Justification. Justification today is, as always, basic to everyday life. Men cannot live without it. The most common form of justification, however, is pragmatic and existential. For modern man, there is no ultimate beyond man, and justification is therefore sought in social or personal grounds, that is, in terms of humanism. As a student, I heard many professors justify the, quote, severity, end quote, of Stalin as, quote, necessary, end quote, for the future of mankind. A few criticized him, very few, on the grounds of his sins against man as an individual. In either case, man was a source and ground of justification. Such a faith has clear expression in Sartre. For Sartre, existentialism is the valid faith because it locates man's destiny and justification within man himself. The ultimate is man's existence. I think, therefore I exist. This doctrine is, for Sartre, the only one which gives man dignity, the only one which does not reduce him to an object. The absolute, for Sartre, is man in his free involvement with men and things. Man's, quote, free involvement, end quote, means that, since God is denied, man invents all values for himself. He decides for himself what constitutes good and evil. One may choose anything if it is on the grounds of free involvement. This means that all acts are valid if we determine them to be so. They are invalid if we do them in terms of an objective standard, such as God's law. To illustrate, marriage and faithfulness to one's spouse are valid only if they represent our free involvement, our free choice. They are invalid if they represent obedience to a law of God or man. For an existential humanist, there is no lawmaker other than himself. Moreover, existentialism is nothing else than an attempt to draw all the consequences of a coherent atheistic position. Quote, free involvement, end quote, means that man is always to be seen as life in the moment, not in terms of a past or a future. Since man is not a determined essence but a present existence, a penal sentence is always directed at a crime that no longer exists. This makes comprehensible the modern antinomianism and its common hostility to the punishment of criminals. After all, why should man today pay for what he did yesterday? Moreover, if man has only existence, and not essence, a determined nature, why punish him now for what no longer exists, his existential moment of crime? Modern man is thus uncomfortable with the idea of law. Law places boundaries around man, whereas it is the essence of the modern existentialist mood to deny all boundaries. Existentialist man trades boundaries and law for existentialist freedom, which means anxiety by his own admission, because now the government of all things is upon man's shoulders. The result is anxiety and sleeplessness. As against this, David in Psalm 2 calls upon his righteous God, and he declares his total dependency on the Lord. Without God, existentialist men say, who will show us any good? Psalm 4 verse 6. That is, they restlessly say that there is no good nor happiness in life, nor peace. Because these men love vanity and a lie, that is, their own will as would-be gods, Genesis chapter 3 verse 5, they are restless, anxious, and hopeless men. Therefore, David can declare, Thou hast put gladness in my heart, more than in the time that their corn and wine increased. Psalm 4 verse 7. God gives to his redeemed people to the justified a peace and joy which is far greater than the unjustified ever enjoy in their greatest prosperity. Those who stand in their own righteousness and seek an existential justification are the sick at heart, the restless, sleepless, and anxious ones. On the other hand, David, in the face of all his problems, can declare, I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. Psalm 4, verse 8. Justification is an act of law, government, and sovereignty. Where man claims to be sovereign and the source of law and government, he denies the very ground of his existence. The existence he affirms becomes then a curse to him, and he is a restless, sleepless, and accursed being. Man's self-justification leads to self-government and self-righteousness, and to a man-made law. The further his departure, the greater is his curse. To justify, to declare righteous, is an act of ultimacy and sovereignty. It comes from God, the creator of all things and their only source of definition, existence and righteousness. To justify is thus a divine act. A segment of this power is delegated by God to man to be applied in his ordained courts on a limited and remote sense. Man's courts of law must apply God's law, but even then, they cannot declare or make a man righteous. They can only say, with respect to a specific and particular offence, not guilty, in terms of the laws of evidence. God alone can declare and make a man righteous. The fall placed man outside of God's law and righteousness. Nothing man can do can alter the fact of his fall and his sentence of death. Man thus stands before God's court, clearly and unequivocally guilty. The sovereign judge, in his grace and mercy, applies the righteousness of Christ and Christ's death as our substitute to us. We are declared righteous by God's court, and then, by his regenerating power, made righteous. The declaration is our justification. The regeneration is our new creation, our transition from death in sin to life in Christ, and in terms of faith in him, obedience to his law, and life in the Holy Spirit. Self-justification, thus, is an attack on God's ultimacy, whether that self-justification be with reference to a major crime or some slight offence. Self-justification affirms another law and another righteousness than God's law and righteousness. Man's Babylonian heart seeks self-justification in things great and small, and even the redeemed, because not perfectly sanctified, seek a beachhead for their own self-assertion in trifles. In effect, they say, here, in these trifles, I am entitled to my word, law, and standard. God, however, allows us not an atom nor a moment in all of being as an arena for our way and our righteousness. We have been set apart by his sovereign and justifying grace for himself. Psalm 4, verse 3. Hence, David's counsel is, stand in awe and sin not. Commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still. Selah. Psalm 4, verse 4.